Welcome to movieplot.info. Here today I'm going to tell you about a movie based on a true story called Oppenheimer. The movie begins with Robert Oppenheimer's vision of an atomic explosion. In 1954, he is at a security hearing that has to decide if Oppenheimer is guilty of divulging classified information. To understand his story, Robert says the case should be viewed through the history of his life. In 1924, young Oppenheimer begins his study of physics at Cambridge. During one lab session, he messes up and the teacher tells him to start over. Oppenheimer waits until everyone leaves. He then injects the teacher's apple with cyanide and then sneaks off. But the next day he comes to his senses and runs to the classroom to retrieve the apple. In the classroom, he meets Niels Bohr and prevents him from eating the poisoned apple. Bohr has heard about Oppenheimer and is impressed by Oppenheimer's knowledge and suggests him to change universities. Oppenheimer starts at University of Göttingen, where he studies quantum physics and prepares to write his essay. The movie jumps to the moment when Oppenheimer first met Strauss. He offers Oppenheimer a position at Princeton University, but Oppenheimer declines. He notices Albert Einstein near the lake and heads toward him, showing a condescending attitude toward Strauss. At the lake, Oppenheimer and Einstein talk briefly about something and Einstein goes away, paying no attention to Strauss. Oppenheimer attends a lecture by Heisenberg, who praises Oppenheimer's scientific work and offers to do research together. But Oppenheimer refuses, saying he plans to return to the United States. Oppenheimer starts teaching at Berkeley and starts his lectures with only one student, but soon the number of students begin to grow rapidly. At the hearing, Strauss informs that the FBI started collecting a dossier on Oppenheimer as soon as he returned to the U.S. because of his left-wing political views. Oppenheimer attends a meeting of the Communist Party where he meets Jean Tetlock. After they slept together, he continued to have an affair with Jean. At a later Communist Party, Oppenheimer meets Catherine Pun, and they become romantically involved. Catherine leaves her husband and marries Oppenheimer, but Oppenheimer continues his affair with Jean. Leslie Groves invites him to become the director of the Manhattan Project to build an atomic bomb. The general is concerned that the Nazis could develop such a devastating weapon. Plus, they have a huge head start on developing it. Oppenheimer says the U.S. has only one chance to get ahead of Hitler. The scientists from other countries who fled to the U.S. from Hitler's repression should be involved in their development. General Groves does not like the idea, but Oppenheimer convinces him that this is the only hope of winning the nuclear race. For the needs of the Manhattan Project, a separate city is being built in Los Alamos for scientists and their families. At the same time, Oppenheimer and Groves travel around the country gathering the best scientists to build the atomic bomb. Some of the scientists don't like the idea of using their knowledge to create weapons of mass destruction, to which Oppenheimer replies that we'd rather build such a weapon before the Nazis. In 1954, the scientists have a meeting to discuss the destructiveness of the atomic bomb, and one of the scientists proposes the idea of a hydrogen bomb, which would be hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb. Oppenheimer proposes to start negotiations with the Soviets to settle a nuclear armament, but Strauss proposes to start building a hydrogen bomb to have an advantage over the Soviets. Oppenheimer is informed of Jean Tetlock's death. She had taken pills and drowned herself in the bathtub. Oppenheimer has a nervous breakdown. Oppenheimer's team prepares for the first test detonation of the atomic bomb called Trinity. On the day before the explosion, Oppenheimer goes up to the bomb himself to realize the magnitude of what is about to happen. The test is scheduled for the early morning of July 16th. Oppenheimer and Groves spend a sleepless night in the bunker, fearing that the explosion could, in theory, destroy the entire world. The timer counts down the final seconds, and a blinding flash of light pierces the dark sky, turning night into day. Oppenheimer has become death, the destroyer of worlds. The test is a success, and an enthusiastic crowd congratulates Oppenheimer. The scientists build 2 more bombs and send them to the military. Oppenheimer becomes a global star, and his picture is printed on the cover of Time magazine, and he is even invited to a reception with President Truman. When Oppenheimer says he has blood on his hands, Truman gives him a handkerchief and tells him to wipe it off, then banishes him and calls him a crybaby. At the hearing, it is revealed that after the war, Oppenheimer spent all his efforts to contain the U.S. nuclear capability, and this led to a conflict of interest with Strauss. At the end of the hearing, the commission recognizes Oppenheimer as loyal to the United States, but he is stripped of his security clearance and loses his political influence. In 1959, when former technician David Hill testifies against Strauss because of his actions against Oppenheimer, the scientist reports that Strauss did it because of a personal vendetta, not out of concern for the safety of the country. The final scene takes place in 1947 back at the lake. Albert tells Oppenheimer that one day when they have punished you enough, they will invite you to the White House and give you an award, but it won't be for you, it will be for them. Einstein is about to leave, but Oppenheimer asks him if he remembers Oppenheimer feared starting a chain reaction that would destroy the entire world. The movie ends with Oppenheimer saying, "I believe we did." If you enjoyed this recap, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.